your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story with Dennis Henson. This is a brand new series we hope that you will enjoy, and it's called Body of Health. Dennis, welcome, and let us start out by telling people about, I guess best way to put it is our disclaimer.
Okay. Well, Richard, thank you so much for having me on this series. I'm really excited about doing this, but I think it's very important that everyone understand that neither of us are medical doctors or have any kind of medical training. We are just people who are very interested in health and being able to get better faster, so that if you have some problem, that gives you a place to go to find things that have worked for other people that may help you, or they may not, but there'll be something worthwhile checking out.
Body of Health is going to be here every week. The website that we're going to suggest you go to for information, number one website is dennisjhenson.com, which we will have in the audio and video podcast videocast. But there's also a Facebook location, and basically it's facebook.com/groups/body of health. Once again, facebook.com/groups, that's plural, groups/body of health. We hope that you will go there to check out the information that Dennis has provided with us. And with that, we move into Body of Health series with yours truly, Reverend Dr. D and Dennis J. Henson. Dennis Henson is with us, and we're going to continue talking about the best of everything for your body of health. And Dennis, as always, good to get back together and discuss some of these issues. And just as a reminder, normally you might make this reference, but I'll take this on and just basically tell the folks that it's very important that whatever you hear on this program, you check it out. Check it out yourself. Check it out with your primary care physician, whoever that might be, and make sure. One of the things we talked about in our last program, part 3 of this series, had to do with being careful not to eat, for example, orange peels, but you need to investigate that to find out why that's not the best idea. I don't know, watermelon peels or rinds, if you will, may not be so great for you. I know that, for example, my wife and I both love artichokes. All right. Really enjoy those, dipping them in butter or dipping them in mayo or some other sauce and scraping the meat off of the end and then getting to the heart. Well, you don't want to eat the leaves. I do have to say that I think the guy that or gal that discovered that they were edible they must have been really, really, really hungry. But it's good to have you back with us here on the program as we, again, encourage people to do the research. Neither of us are doctors. We're just sharing our observations and perspectives. Good to have you with us.
Thank you, Richard. I really enjoy these programs, and I look forward to the ones that we covered today, the items we covered today. I think there's a lot of really good things here for your health.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you might hear us from time to time repeating some things. And quite honestly, that's okay, because they bear repeating. They really do. They're worth saying again and again and again. It's kind of like hammering it home a little bit. And I'll even put it in the category of a series we did last year on your book, Real Impact Daily Inspiration, where you encourage people to read something inspirational every day, even if it is the same thing. It doesn't matter. It just continues to reinforce. So, don't worry too much about that. We understand that, over the last 4.5 months that we've been doing this program, which is amazing to me, we've probably mentioned a few things quite a number of times because they're so important. They're so significant in our minds. And so we share that again. One of the things that I'm not a super fan, I will eat them because they are still very good, but you have here one of the best nuts to crack, so to speak. And And that's the walnut. And why is that? My wife loves them. I think it's more because of the oil that I pick up on that. It's not quite there with sardines with you, but it's not one of my favorites. I prefer almonds or cashews or peanuts.
Well, walnut is the best nut because of what it does for your brain. It's kind of funny. Nature is sometimes strange. If you just look at the meat of an English walnut, it looks like a human brain. Have you ever noticed that?
Mm. Yeah,
It,
that's right. I got that one. Yes.
yeah, it looks like the human brain. Now, there's two kinds of walnuts. There's a black walnut, which is in a very hard shell. It's like a rock. And the wood from the black walnut tree is very expensive. A black walnut tree can range from anywhere from eight to $60,000, depending on the size of the tree and what kind of condition it's in, which was a surprise to me because my grandmother had them growing in her yard. But the walnut that I'm talking about is the English walnut, which is it has a much lighter hull. You can almost crack it. You can put them together in your hands and crack it with your hands. You can't do that with a black walnut, and you wouldn't want to anyway, because if you get the fluid from the hull of a black walnut on you, you're going to be purple for 2 or 3 days. It doesn't wash off. It's not something that's fun to do. When I was a kid, like I said, in my grandmother's yard, there were thousands of the walnuts on the ground. And of course, being 4 or 5 years old, you had to pick them up and play with them. I'd come home and I'd be purple and my clothes would be purple. Mother was not happy about that. But the English walnut that most people eat is extremely healthy because of the fats for your brain. And it supports your heart health and your gut health, and it helps to prevent cancer. So if you can work that into you, I mean, my wife puts it in. I told you about the salad earlier, I mean, the dessert earlier where I have Jello.
Hmm.
She puts that in with the Jello and the different kinds of berries and the collagen and so forth. And she sprinkles some walnuts. Oh man, that's delicious. Maybe I'll have to put it up on my website. But I look forward to finishing eating every day so that I can have that for my dessert. It has no sugar in it at all,
Yeah.
but it's extremely good and it's sweet. And we use um, Sweet Companion from Body of Health, um, Morning Clarity Sweet Companion. That's our sweetener for that. It doesn't really need it because of the berries, but sometimes the strawberries are not
Hmm.
quite ripe and they're better, and I put some Sweet Companion on those.
Oh, it sounds great. And again, there are ways that walnuts can be done, and it's actually the larger chunks, if you will, or a whole walnut, if you will. I don't mind if, in other words, if because I know that they put them into. I'm trying to think if they put them into peanut butter cookies, but they put them into other cookies and they chop them up, not super fine, but at least they're smaller little pieces. That I can handle. That's more tolerable for me. So I may very well mix that into one of our salads.
Mhm.
I even considered the possibility we love to make this the particular rice that the name escapes me, but putting walnuts into the rice. And it's really good, or other dishes and so forth. Who knows? Maybe when I make my next fish dish, I might sprinkle a few walnuts in there, and that'll probably be pretty doggone good. Now, you have here what's called a catalyst, and this is considered the best catalyst, cayenne pepper. First, define for us what a catalyst is and why cayenne pepper is the best.
Well, it makes your veins and arteries expand. It makes your blood flow more smoothly and faster. In fact, if you're prone to have a stroke, you need to have several capsules of cayenne pepper because it can actually stop a stroke as it's happening.
Wow.
Now, You probably wouldn't want to have a spoonful, but if you're having a stroke and you
Hmm.
don't have a capsule, taking a spoonful of it's going to burn your mouth, but it may save your life.
Yeah.
So, having been a stroke victim, I mean, I know that as something that everyone needs to know. If you have a stroke,
Right.
you're probably going to have another one and another one and another one until you figure out how to get healthy. So cayenne pepper is really good to know about, and you should have it as often as you possibly can. The easiest way for me to get cayenne pepper inside me without having a problem is to put it on popcorn.
Mm,
Popcorn
that's
popcorn's so good for you anyway, but because of the uh, what is it? It gives you bulk. It gives you
the
what is
fiber.
yes. My mind wouldn't come up with it. Fiber is so good for you, and popcorn is just fiber. I mean, that's all it is. So you can put some cayenne pepper on it, use extra virgin olive oil and Celtic salt, and all of a sudden you're eating something that just tastes wonderful, but it's doing wonders for your health. It's boosting your metabolism. It's inhibiting your stroke, improving your digestion. It helps with pain, supports your health, and the cayenne pepper literally improves your gut. If you have an ulcer, it cures the ulcer. It delivers nutrients to your cells faster than anything else. But the thing I love about it the most is what it does to your blood. It helps your blood flow more smoothly and faster. If you're having a heart attack or a stroke, that's pretty important. I mean,
Mm,
that's life or death important.
yeah. Well, it's interesting. Cayenne pepper, I love to put it on different foods, which is fantastic. Oh, it just really makes things pop, so to speak. No pun intended. And I guess one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to get me some. I guess they sell organic popcorn, or you can get it probably at bodyofhealth.life, can't you?
Not the popcorn. It's a good idea. I probably should put it on there. Every time we mention something, my secretary writes it down and puts it up. So you'll probably see that by the time this program
Yeah.
airs.
Well,
But
go ahead.
one thing about cayenne pepper is it's different from other peppers. The other peppers may cause you to have heartburn,
Mm,
and they may burn your digestive system. But cayenne pepper doesn't. It burns your mouth, but that's it. It doesn't cause heartburn. In fact, it helps with your digestive problems. It helps to heal them, and it helps avoid the heartburn.
mm. Well, I tell you, I have learned over the years that one of the best ways to avoid heartburn, if you do experience it, is to stay away for the time being from those things that give you heartburn. And for me, years ago, it was it was pork spare ribs because of all the fat. Now I probably could today, but and I might try something like that. Give me a sample over there and see what happens. But I get the funny feeling that it may have been more than that back then. Maybe it might have been too late in the evening, because you don't want to eat too late in the evening because your body then is trying to digest all this stuff and all these acids and everything's going on. And of course, that also can exacerbate a condition called acid reflux, which I used to have until I stopped eating at least 2 hours before we were going to lay down and go to sleep. And so that's a very important consideration. We are talking about the best of everything for your body of health here on the program, this series called Body of Health. You can go to bodyofhealth.life and you can find a lot of these items that we've been talking about there and then some for that matter. And you can also get a 20% discount if you will incorporate into that order the word radio. There'll be an opportunity for you to put that in there and you'll get 20% off of your total there. And we also encourage you to go to dennisjhenson.com and go over to the health tab. Click on that and scroll down. Join the Body of Health group on Facebook. There's a link right there down as you scroll down. And then as you scroll down even further on that same page, you're going to see the information for all of the programs that we have been doing in this series since January of 2025. And you're going to find all this information available to you that you can access and research yourself, as we always recommend, because Dennis and I, neither of us are doctors, and we don't know what your personal conditions are, but we ask you to check with your health practitioner, your health professional, the one that you see, and see what they have to say based upon the information that they have about you and your health. Also, I personally consider checking with my internal guidance system, my own intuition as well. So we hope that you'll do that, and we also hope that you will stay right where you are as we continue with the Body of Health series here on Tell Me Your Story. This is the Body of Health, Tell Me Your Story series here on this particular program. We're talking about the best of everything for your health, and we've got a couple of items left to talk about. And one of them, of course, you would read pretty regularly in a periodical, or I guess you'd call it a small little magazine that was delivered. I think it was monthly. I can't remember exactly. I think it was called the Reader's Digest, and in it, it talked about a medicine. It was the best medicine. It was laughter as the best medicine, and let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, let's go back one to the best weed, and then we'll go to the laughter.
Oh, well, let's laugh about that because that's funny. I was just thinking about that because one man's weed is another man's food, just like one
Exactly.
man's trash is another man's treasure. And dandelion root, I mean, you're always trying to get rid of those things out of your garden if they're growing there.
And most people have them in their backyard, or some people even have them in their front yard because they spread so easily. You know, if you put out a pre-emergent, they won't show up, but they're not hard to find. The only thing you need to be careful about is what kind of weed killer has been used on the grass.
Right.
But if you can find a big field that just has lots of dandelions in it that hasn't been treated, the root is extremely healthy, good for you. It flushes toxins from your liver. It's good for your digestive health, and it's a very powerful anti-inflammatory. It contains antioxidants. It's good for blood sugar management, heart health, and cancer prevention from a weed.
And now, well, but see, that's the funny thing is that that's what we call it. And it's only a weed because we don't want it where it's growing.
Right.
And I know that there are those who have actually converted their lawns, whether it be the front or backyard, into a makeshift garden. And it may or may not have rows in it, furrowed rows and all that stuff. Or they just let it go wild and then they go out there and then they harvest. I remember once mowing my father's lawn, the Bermuda grass in the front, because I had read about grass flower. All right. So I wanted to see if I could do that. The only downside to it was that I don't think I had the proper grinding or milling equipment to grind it down into real flour because I was getting a lot of little seeds and or pieces of grass that were a little bigger than I wanted to deal with. So it was something that was I was just curious about that. So that's what I find fascinating.
Well, we're talking about the root, but the
Hmm.
entire dandelion is edible. I mean, I don't know that I want to eat the seed because they're fuzzy, but you can.
Right.
And the plant itself is very healthy. You can use it in your salad. I mean, use it as a green in your salad.
Hmm.
So you don't have to stop with the root, although the root has the most nutrients in it, but it's very healthy if you want to add something else. And they don't taste bad. They actually taste
Yeah.
pretty good. I put them in, I go out and harvest some, put them in a little plastic container and put them in the refrigerator and then add them to my salad.
Yeah.
So that's something that you might want to consider.
I met a woman some years ago back in Phoenix, Arizona, and she had this deck of cards that she had created because she had been watching the conflict going on in the Middle East back in the early 90s. That was 93. And she was seeing these people who were kneeling by the side of the road and their knees were pressed into these plants and she recognized them. And of course these folks they were hungry. They didn't have anything to eat and she recognized that particular plant, quote unquote weed, and she thought, "Oh my goodness, don't they realize that what their knees are pressing into, that they're resting there on, are full of nutrients?" She was referred to, she had the nickname of the wild weed woman. Now, I still have that deck of cards, and there
Wow.
was one in particular that I actually tried. I was working at a transmitter site in Phoenix, to the west of Phoenix, and one of the items was tumbleweed. Now, you wouldn't think a tumbleweed would really be all that great. Well, you have to get to it while it is still green, and you clip off the last inch or two of the tender green plant.
Mm.
And I did that. And I put that in a pot and I heated up some potatoes, chopped up, cubed up some potatoes and that kind of thing. And it was actually really very good. There really wasn't that much of a flavor, but it was the nutrients that were still in the green of the tumbleweed before it dried out and blew away. So this is one of the most interesting things to me, that I keep hearing these stories of, oh, there's shortages of this and that and the other thing, and I'm thinking, yeah, well, but if you were to look around and forage in your yard or in the forest, and you have to be careful when you do this, all right? You have to know what you're looking for, or get someone
Right.
who can who knows these things and knows what's good and what's not good. Um, because there are all kinds of things out there, kind of like what Yule Gibbons used to say, many parts of a pine tree are edible.
You even hadn't thought of him in a few years.
Yeah. Well, we live up here now, in the San Bernardino Mountains, and we have pine cones that fall from these trees, but they're not your typical pine cones. These things can grow up to a foot and a half long.
My
They're
goodness.
elongated pine cones.
Mm.
And I know that the squirrels and the birds, they go after them and they will pull out whatever's in there that are edible. I'm sure there must be seeds of some sort. So they know there's something there. But this is one of the things that I know that there are those who, I'm trying to remember the name that they call them. Oh, wilding. That's the term that's used to go out into the wilderness, desert or mountains or what have you, to forage for things like that. But you have to know what you're looking for, because you don't want to get a hold of the wrong thing, because it could hurt you, if not, unfortunately, could kill you. But it just, to me, it's fascinating, the things that we set aside millions of acres to grow, that seems a little on the limiting side. And yet we're missing out on a lot of other wonderful, nutritious things that are out there, that we could eat. And we'll talk more about that. And we'll also get into our last two items. One of them I already mentioned, but we'll do that when we get back, because I'm going to mention bodyofhealth.life and dennisjhenson.com. Those are the resources that we want you to access, to find out more about what we've been talking about, maybe even place an order for some of the things that are available through bodyofhealth.life. Grab some recipes off of dennisjhenson.com and the health tab, as well as join the Body of Health Facebook group. There's a link under that tab, health tab, that you're going to want to click on to join that group, and they'll be there to support you and talk about what they're doing, and you can share what you're doing and maybe get some good advice from them as to some of the things that other people have tried that have worked for them. And we'll continue our conversation with Dennis here on the Body of Health, here on Tell Me Your Story. This is the Body of Health series. Dennis J. Henson here, along with Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan. We've got two more items. I almost skipped on the dandelion root, and I don't want to forget any of these because they're all really good. And I have already mentioned the fact that the Reader's Digest used to have that section called "Laughter is the Best Medicine" section, and they would have jokes and maybe little cartoons and those kinds of things. But we've got some philosophers that we've had over the decades, if not centuries, who have been very strong advocates. One in particular that was in the hospital, diagnosed with some form of cancer and given, it was like 6 months. And he said no. And he started watching all of the comedies, the Three Stooges, and I mean, and the list goes on of those things. And he went on to live for years. Talk to us about your experiences with laughter.
Well, excuse me, I had a similar situation. My wife and I love to dance, and we were members of several dance groups. And one of our friends that we knew very well told us he'd been diagnosed with cancer and that he didn't expect to live a lot longer. So we saw him in about a year, and he looked great. And I asked him, well, what happened with the cancer thing? He says, well, the doctor told me just what you just said. He said, go and find movies that are funny, watch them all of the time. And instead of just laughing, laugh hard and long. Instead of just laughing and giggling, saying that was fun, he says, just really take it to the max. Laugh and laugh and laugh. Laugh as much as you possibly can. And his cancer went into remission.
Mm.
That's very that's very powerful, and it's easy. It's easy. Well, I do that all the time anyway.
Yeah.
My wife thinks I'm crazy. Some little joke will come on, and I just laugh and laugh and laugh, and she says, "Yeah, wasn't that funny?" And I said, "Well, you don't understand. It's not about that's not what it's about. It's about being healthy and feeling good." So laughter stops stress. It heals your heart. It supports your immune system, your respiratory system, and it helps your body reoxygenate. It prevents strokes, dementia, and heart disease. And it's available to everybody and it's free. I mean, you can just read books that have jokes. Find someone that you really like that writes good jokes or writes humorous books. You can rent. You can go to YouTube and just type in funny movies, and you can just watch all kinds of movies or funny jokes. It's not hard to find things to laugh at. So if you'll change your worry and your regret and your anger and your fear to laughter, that is the best medicine that you can possibly have.
I often wonder what the biochemical aspects are. We've talked before about putting the right stuff in so that the body can generate what it needs in in the chemistry to do what needs to be done. So I'm thinking, well, obviously laughter is a process, but that process is also doing something that is generating certain chemicals in the body that again are resistant to or help us to resist the development of, for example, cancer cells and stress and the list goes on of the things that you mentioned. And that to me is that kind of research. I know it's been done. I know it's out there. All we have to do is, you can. I have to tell you, I've been using AI an awful lot. It's my Google. All right. Because it has access to pretty much everything that Google has access to. And it's been fascinating. And I will also tell you, too, that this has been fascinating to have these conversations because, I mean, I've been doing this I'm getting close to 50 years. I'm not quite there yet. It's more like 47, 48 years I've been doing this. But I feel as though with these programs, I've been taking this incredible master's class. I feel that my dissertation is complete, and I'm headed for defending my PhD, my thesis. All right, and I've
Okay.
actually attended one of those, questioning, well, how come they have to defend? after watching it, I'm going, oh, makes sense now. But it's as if I've got all this incredible information at my fingertips, quite literally at bodyofhealth.life as well as dennisjhenson.com, that you've shared with us, for example, these last four programs, 28 different items for our better health. And I got to tell you, what a gift. What a gift to our listeners and viewers, Dennis.
Well, thank you. It's been lots of fun, and we have one more item. We don't want to miss it because it is one of the most important ones.
Well, I will mention that, but first I want to mention that you are listening to the Body of Health program. It's a series throughout this year. We hope that you will join us each week as we talk about all of these different aspects of health and well-being to help your body of health and be more healthy and live a longer life if indeed that's what you want. I know that for Dennis and I, that's our desire. I mean, I'm shooting for 100 and I got a ways to go, but I've come this far, all right, and I'm feeling pretty doggone good. I think I'll make it. I think I'll make it there and beyond. I'll cross that finish line and then I'll create another one, 105 and 110. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. But we also hope that you will continue to join us here on Tell Me Your Story. It's the Body of Health here with Dennis J. Henson and yours truly, Reverend Dr. D. And we're going to talk about the last item here, the last 28th item, and that has to do with, well, believe it or not, it has to do with the best book, as Dennis sees it here, Choices by yours truly, Reverend Dr. D. Choices, 5 Steps for Life. And I think that for me, Dennis, in our conversations about the body of health, that's really what it is all about, is choices, making choices.
Yes, you can make your own biological outcomes by the choices you make. The right choices can trigger cellular repair. The discipline of your choices fuels your longevity. And if you choose health over crisis, then you can live a much longer and happier life, which is actually the goal of the Body of Health. So this book is perfect. If you don't have it, I highly suggest that you get it and you start making better choices for your health.
And it's interesting how we have so many, and some of the choices aren't the best for us. And we've seen some individuals who have made some documentaries where they have partaken in some of these not so healthy choices over the course of, say, 30 days. And I think one of the guys actually, sadly, wound up in the hospital because we found out that what he was consuming for breakfast, lunch, and dinner didn't have the nutrients necessary and actually had some detrimental elements that weren't good for his body and his better health. So we have examples by others, and of course, specifically, of course, you, Dennis, your example, having gone through the series of strokes that you did back in 2018, and the things that you have found out about, and the work that both you and your wife and others around you have been doing to gather together some of the best information. At least we'd like to think it's some of the best information that's available, but we want people to check that out and investigate. That's part of making a choice. It's not just taking our word for it, right?
Exactly. Whether you live a long and healthy life is really up to what you do now. If you're in your 30s or 40s or even your early 50s, you have to understand that when you hit 70, your body's going to change. Now, if you've built a wall of healthy cells and done all the things that we talk about here, that drop is going to be like falling on a pillow. I mean, it's not going to be so bad.
Yeah.
If you just continue on and think, well, I'm different, it's not going to hurt me, everything's going to be fine, I don't need to do any of these things, you're going to fall off a cliff and it's not going to feel good when you hit the bottom.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I know that it's an interesting thing how some things come about. I have never been a big coffee drinker, for example. I just never was. Now, I've had a cup or two here and there. On a Saturday when we lived elsewhere, I might make a pot. I may not even finish the pot. Okay. And then all of a sudden we moved. We moved a mile high and 200 miles to the east. And all of a sudden, I was making coffee. I'd make a pot of coffee every day. Not for any other reason than I enjoyed the taste. Then I was introduced to morning clarity, and I mix that up in my filter there, and I run the hot water through it and so forth, and I make my pot of coffee, and I enjoy that, and so forth. And it's interesting how the body changes and has different I want to say cravings, but some of the cravings that we get, like, oh man, I need a Snickers bar. Okay, I have a craving, the sweet tooth. And there are now, of course, alternatives. I will tell you that we make this little trail mix with nuts and raisins, and now we're using dark chocolate morsels. All right, to start with.
That's good.
And we just grab a small handful and pop them in our mouths and so forth. It's really good. Now I could sit there and probably eat the whole container, or half of it anyway. But it's just nice to have. And I know that it's not going to hurt me. It's not going to elevate my blood sugar, and so forth. And we're even looking at, okay, well, what else can we either A, add to it, which right now 3 ingredients. Do we want to add too many more? Or B, substitute one of those ingredients for something else that's just as good, maybe even better, to have, so that we can grab a handful of those every so often. It's just nice to have, rather than pulling a box of crackers or a bag of chips out of the cupboard or that kind of thing. So, then there's the you've talked about staying away from some of the white things like white bread. Well, we stay focused more on sourdough. I've heard sourdough is actually better than most of the other breads that you can get, and we like it. I make peanut butter sandwiches, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, peanut butter and banana sandwiches. My wife makes a great chicken salad, um, grilled cheese. Oh my heavens, incredible with pepper jack and so forth and so on. There's so many different things, and so we need to open ourselves up, and that's what Dennis is here. He and I are joined together to open things up for you to consider, to choose, to consider the possibilities. Uh, what Dennis, just in say the last 6 months or a year, what are some of the things that you discovered that you didn't know beforehand, that you're now uh, incorporating into your life? I don't know, maybe it's the coffee, maybe it's the mushroom coffee, the morning
Well,
clarity,
it's
that
that.
is now a mainstay that you just feel, not only do you feel good consuming it, but you feel good, shall we say, psychologically, because I'm doing good by my body.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things that I've always felt bad, because I knew I should be putting this in, taking this, because everywhere you listen, you hear ACV, apple cider vinegar.
Mm.
It helps every part of your body. It boosts everything that you do, but the taste is terrible. I just can't stomach it. I mean, I tried mixing it with other things. It says take a teaspoonful of this and that. It's just, I just couldn't do it. I tried and tried because I wanted to become healthy and I wanted to have that aspect of health. Then I found the ACV gummies. They do not taste like apple cider vinegar. Kids fight over them. They're actually delicious. You can eat your two or three that you're supposed to eat, but you want to eat another one and another one. They're really good. So now you can take advantage of apple cider vinegar without the terrible taste. Well, there are other things that boost the effects of the apple cider vinegar on your longevity. There's D3, there's B2, and there's K2. So what I did was I talked with my secretary and my virtual assistant, and I said, we need to put a bundle together, call it the Longevity Shield, so that you can get all of these things, and let's give them a big discount so that you can get a big bottle of the ACV gummies for free if you just buy the shield. You buy the gummies and the D3, and they're all one price, but you save $18 by getting the shield. So if you go to Body of Health, you'll see that bundle there, and you've solved the problem of the terrible taste. Plus, you've really gone a long way toward living longer and healthier.
Yeah, and that's important. That really is to consider all of these different possibilities. So go to bodyofhealth.life, grab that bundle, okay, and start living the best life you can. We're going to continue here as we continue talking with Dennis Henson here, Reverend Dr. D, on the Body of Health series on Tell Me Your Story. Well, Dennis, we're just about to wrap things up here on the program. Man, these programs go by in a hurry. And granted, this is part 4. We could have crammed all 28 items into one program, I suppose, but wouldn't have been as much fun.
That's true.
I'm going to give you the last word on this series in regards to the best of everything for your body of health.
Well, right after I had my stroke, I determined that I was going to do whatever it took to get better. And I did lots and lots and lots of research. And all of the research that I did, if you just tried to combine it and make it in an easy to understand form, these 28 things would take you there. They're going to move you forward and help you put things in your diet, do things a little bit differently so that you feel better and live longer and have a more productive life. So if you want to get this all, it's free. Just go to bodyofhealth.life, go to the articles, download it, and all of the other radio programs that we've done, the recipes and everything, they're there at no charge. I hope that you'll use them and share them with people. Maybe you'll one of your friends or some relatives, maybe they're had a stroke, or maybe they have heart disease. And these things that you share with them, it will affect their health and it'll make you feel great because you helped someone else out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what's interesting is they say, well, there is no free lunch. Well, to some degree, that is not necessarily true. That is true, I should say. That this is a program that is provided to you at no charge. Now, whether you want to consider the possibility of incorporating these 28 items that we've mentioned or the power list, all right, that it was also mentioned and is available at bodyofhealth.life. And I should rephrase that. It's actually dennisjhenson.com. Click on the health tab and you can find that information regarding the power list and many other things as well. I probably will say this 100 times between now and the end of the year when we wrap up this particular series, Dennis. You can pay me now or you can pay me later. And we're not talking about paying Dennis or me. It's you choose you choose who you're going to pay now or you choose who you're going to pay later. It's extremely important. It's a question that you need to address because we are all, so to speak, in the same boat. We're all trying to optimize our health, or again, as the word I love, we're trying to achieve homeostasis, a balanced body and life. And you know what's fun? I got to tell you, when I bought that piece of fish at the store, and I probably could get, because there's some farmers markets that actually do have booths where they're selling seafood and or fish. Or I could actually go out to Lake Gregory. I'm not sure if they stock it, or Lake Arrowhead, or driving all the way out to Big Bear and catching my own fish. I have to learn how to clean it and all that stuff. But I got to tell you, that excited me because I knew that I would be putting something good into my body that was going to help it. And that to me is, I don't know why I want to put it this way. That to me is half the battle, Dennis. That's half the battle, is choosing that kind of stuff and then getting excited about knowing that I'm helping my body.
Well, I agree. One of the things that I really emphasize is form the habit of reading something positive every day that leads you toward your goal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you make your goal your health, which is a pretty good goal, like you said, to live to be 100 and to be healthy while you're getting there, if you read something positive every day that leads you in that direction, your chances of getting there just improve by 100 times. And a
Absolutely.
good way to start that habit is to go to realimpactbook.com, because this book was written to help you form the habit of reading something positive every day, regardless of your time.
And what's beautiful is when you talk about time, you can get it in an audible format that you can listen to while you're doing other things. Like for me, doing the DIY projects around this new home that we're in, and that's a lot of fun. Well, Dennis, it's going to wrap up another edition. We'll come back next week with another topic, another focal point for the body of health, and look forward to seeing you then.
Thank you, Richard. See you next week.
And folks, we will talk to you next week here on the Body of Health series, here on Tell Me Your Story, and until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast. Love to long. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for being in my life and letting me be in yours. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.